Welcome everyone to August 2nd, GreenFire Wednesday. This is a midway point between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. And so a fine shout out to the fine staff of Channel 18, Iowa City, who do such fine work and provide beautiful backdrops and do beautiful lighting and sound and so on. So hats off and props to everyone at Channel 18 for the beautiful work. Lots of love to you all. So for this golden eternity of this hour, we're going to move ourselves out of mental slavery. First, we're going to find out where we're at. We're at the halfway point between summer and autumn. This August 2nd, it's 7 weeks after June 20th, summer equinox, and about 7 or 8 weeks before autumn equinox. Summer solstice, autumn equinox. So it's the high midpoint of summer, so get on out there if you can and celebrate however. Walk in nature, get a shake, whatever you like to do. Ride a bike, go down to the water. If you like to go fishing, be with your friends, go have a joe, have a brew. Celebrate the midpoint of summer, the Midsummer Night's Dream. So we're going to look at a little bit of the astrological Leo, which is the sign of summer, which is Leo the lion. That's from July 22nd to August 22nd. And Leo holds the secrets of self-expression. With effortless exuberance, you teach humanity's roles with a flair for dramatizing the truth so we can see ourselves clearly. You are our cosmic comic relief, teaching us to make art from grief and illuminate our beliefs artistically. 2017 gives us 2 eclipses in this sign. A lunar eclipse on February 11th, a solar eclipse on August 7th, and also a huge solar eclipse, total solar eclipse August 21st. So I invite you, dear friends, to ask yourself where you might be and what you might want to be doing on August 21st, which is, I believe, a Sunday. That would be a total solar eclipse all across the country. So maybe you can see that as a chance for reflection and recollection of things of a deeper nature. Because a total solar eclipse won't come like this way for another 100 years. And the last total solar eclipse was almost 100 years ago. It was 1918, which is 99 years ago. So be with you and yours, and may you find an appropriate way to celebrate this very unusual astro event, which is the sun is in eclipse. There would be no sunlight for 2 minutes around 2 in the afternoon, Midwestern Central Time. So, hey, wish us all well. I wish you all well, however you celebrate. And eclipses in our sign tend to act as accelerators and bring tremendous amounts of clarity about what to let go of and what to go towards. And eclipses shed new light on our entire life. That's one of the cool things. Eclipses shed light on our entire life, which is pretty important. And what is illuminated might inspire and ignite moves. You might have a thing or two to prove, but only to yourself. Only to yourself. Free time might be limited, so if you can continue building and birthing your dreams, you will be able to look back and see all you've accomplished since 2015. Stay focused, consistent, and true to your vision. Creating something is a cumulative process. It's a gradual, cumulative. Our egos want immediate gratification, but such is not the case. True progress comes with sustained efforts. Remember to value all you have done, honor it by staying the course, and celebrate it by sharing it as it grows. Your communications get a major boost this year. Whatever blogs, websites, articles, manuals, book proposals you're involved in would grow at rapid speeds. So too your powers of divination. Take back your right to a relationship with the divine. It is our job to remember and recreate rituals that keep us in right relationship with each other and all beings. No one, no system, no government has the power to sever us from intuitive knowing. Let's say that a couple of times here. No one, no system, no government has the power to sever us from intuitive knowing. Take yours seriously and consider a course of study to help you understand it in greater detail. So it is our job to take back our right to a relationship with the divine. It is our job to remember and recreate rituals that keep us in right harmony and right relationship with each other and all beings. No one and no system can take that away. So this is a little glimpse at the mid-year look. It's again a midway point between summer and autumn, but it's also mid-year. It's also the Midsummer Night's Dream. So this is also approximately about 2-3 weeks from this total solar eclipse. So with that in mind, we look at today's, which is called Lammas. Lammas is another term in the Celtic universe. It's called Lugnasad. Basically, it's the midway point, considered a holy day. And so at Lammas, we appreciate the fruits of our labors. We stop and honor all we have created, nurtured, and protected. This holy day is time to be aware of the power of food in our lives. We feed one another in ritual. We give each other drink in small chalices. We say the words, "May you never hunger, may you never thirst." And look deep into each other's eyes. Look deep enough to know that there is more we hunger for than food. That is looking deep into each other's eyes, knowing that there is more we hunger for than food. Lammas is also about the potential loss of all we have worked for. After the planting, tending, and protecting, our plants and plans and we are large and full and near harvest. And everything could be lost in an instant, like a tremendous thunderstorm, a tornado, a devastating wind or storm. The locusts could come as a flood or drought or illness or accident. We turn to old gestures of protection inherited from our forefathers and foremothers. We may make a corn dolly and hide seeds in the folds of her dress to be held by the goddess through the coming dark time. These may be literal seeds of herbs, vegetables, flowers, or the seeds of ideas, dreams, hopes, desires for healing. We get to feel our original earth-based natures as we unearth old rituals for protection from the hard times. These times are now upon us. May we be strong and resilient for what is to come. Lammas is the built-in moment, the true north of our inner compass for following what is right for you. Lammas is the built-in moment, the true north of your inner compass for following what is right for you. Lammas is about gratitude, a true and deep emotion that can well up inside. Lammas is about gratitude, a true and deep emotion that can well up inside when faced with the absolute magic of harvest, of gathering in our true heart work. So this is a little bit of empathic seed sharing and also a little bit of shape-shifting. So let's just cover this a little bit more because it is a turning toward the autumn now, but also in the heart of summer. We don't want to let go of that too early. We turn to old gestures of protection inherited from our foremothers. We may make a corn dolly and hide seeds in the folds of her dress to be held by the goddess through the coming dark time. These may be literal seeds of herbs, vegetables, flowers, or the seeds of ideas, dreams, hopes, desires for healing. We get to feel our original earth-based natures as we unearth old rituals for protection from the hard times. And these times are now upon us, dear friend. May we be strong and resilient for what is to come. Lammas is the built-in moment, the true north of our inner compass for following what is right for us and for everyone. Lammas is about gratitude, a true and deep emotion that can well up inside us when faced with the absolute magic of harvest, of gathering in our true heart work. So what is our true heart work? This is a question that we would like to ask from time to time. So it's a point of stepping back and asking ourselves, during this season of Lammas, August 2nd, right on through August 21st with a total solar eclipse, what is our true heart work? It is time to step back, get out of our mental lockbox, and step out of the normal and the routine, which is maybe drab and boring, and step out onto the edge and look out a little bit. Let's look out, keep looking out a little bit, look out a little bit more here. We got to keep looking out here. So let's look out a little bit and invite one another to feed each other's souls and helping one another look out a little bit to see what is our true heart work. And our true heart work has many valences, many nuances, many levels. And as we set the template and activate the telluric at this midway point, so here we are. We're at this midway point, this midway station, and the seasonal wheel is turning. The seasonal wheel is turning. So we can turn the seasonal wheel. The seasonal wheel is turning. And we're at the midway point of that seasonal wheel turning. And this is Lammas, which is considered a holy day. So with this as a reflection and an introduction, I'm going to go into a deeper phase shift of this particular day. Simply because we're in the summer of love, and we are dealing with dark times in this country, and not necessarily economic dark times, but they could be that as well. But psychologically challenging, emotionally challenging, spiritually challenging, socially challenging, culturally challenging, a paradigm shift of not a high nature. So we've entered a dark night of the soul, shall we say, and we stay with it, such as we read and we shared as far as the Leo part. We stay with it long enough, and we shall enter the bright dawning light of the coming day. But that we are in a dark night affects people in different ways, nuanced ways, but a lot of times disempowering lots of people. So one of the tenets of a fascist government is to marginalize large numbers of people. And fascism is a form of psychology, as it is anything more than anything else. And what happens is people become disempowered, and they become lackadaisical, and they become they have a sense of inertia, a lack of motivation, and a sense of no self-worth. These are all intentional devices by Babylon man out there in the Babylon land of Washington, D.C., to get all the little minions, all the little people, to feel disempowered and to basically bow down and worship what do you call him? An autocrat, a totalitarian, a dictator, all of the above, and a reign of terror that seeks to unwind out of D.C. across this land of what they call the home of the free. Well, this is here this mental slavery is intentional. And so I wrote a piece today called Things Not Good for This Great Sky, Psychic Funerals. And so we live under this beautiful great sky. If you step outside and look at the clouds out here, Iowa has a great sky mind, a beautiful great sky. If you come from the east and you come out to Iowa and you look around at the sky, you will realize that this is a great sky out here. You don't see this out in the east. There's a great sky mind, where the land between two rivers is both forested and prairie. Both forest and prairie between the Mississippi and the Missouri River. They call the land between two rivers, or the land between two dreams. So let's go into exorcising the demons of a fascist Babylon man seeking to put everyone under his thumb. Things not good for this great sky, psychic funerals. Could call them psychic funerals as well. So let's have a psychic funeral for ourselves here. Burn the scaffolding of this old mental house down. Burn it whole, total, and completely down. Burn the scaffolding of this old mental house down. Burn it whole, total, and completely down. Wear no frown. Burn the whole house down. No plants grow here. The concrete can't hear what you hear. Remove your mind from the mental lockbox it has been in, walled in by Babylon man. Coney hot dog grilling in your head, with a Coney hot dog grilling in your head. The towers and skyscrapers of the city, instant coffee urbania, has set off this culturally induced mania. Rectangular vaults of boxed-in inertia. There's indecency. This thus is inducing dread. And it's not dreadlocks, it's dread in the head. And craters of the moon, illness runes in your head. And these craters of the moon and this illusion runs in your head. Break the manacles of the old mental shackles in your mind that serves no one and serves no more, and accept the man who wants Babylon land to live rent-free in your mind, internalizing the oppressor's dictatorship of the unfree, in an internal dialogue of slavery. Rise up, O wretched of the earth. Rise up, O wretched of the earth. Reclaim, rebirth, restore your mind. For all humankind, cry freedom, cry freedom, cry freedom. Set your colors in red, white, blue, and yellow. Synergize your solarized mind with restoration of laughter, with redemption song and mirth on earth. A little at a time, a little at a time. Keep on keeping on. A little at a time, a little at a time. You climb higher into the fires of your own desire with oxygen supply, plenty enough to fly. And that's a little at a time, a little at a time. A little at a time you climb, dear friend, higher into the fires of your own desire with oxygen supply, plenty enough to fly. Aho. So this is exercising the demons of Babylon mind that comes out of Washington, D.C. Things not good for this great sky here of the great heartland. These are psychic funerals, much like Yellowstone and the great caldera, the largest caldera on planet Earth. These are psychic funerals coming out of the land between two rivers in a psychic caldera called Things Not Good for This Great Sky. Burn the scaffolding of this old mental house down. Burn it whole, total. Burn it whole, total, and completely down. Wear no frown. Burn the whole house down. Burn the whole house down. No plants grow here. This concrete can't hear what you hear. Remove your mind from the mental lockbox it has been in. Dear friend, remove your mind from the mental lockbox it has been in. Walled in by Babylon man, walled in by Babylon man, a Coney hot dog grilling in your head instead of real thoughts and real mind and real brain power. A Coney hot dog, they've turned you into a Coney hot dog and they have it grilling in your own head. The towers and skyscrapers of the city, instant coffee urbania, has set off this culturally induced mania. The towers and skyscrapers of the city, instant coffee urbania, has set off this culturally induced mania. Rectangular vault of boxed-in inertia, thus inducing dread. Dear friend, thus inducing dread. Thus inducing dread. Be free, and the craters of the moon, illness, unease in your head, and the craters of the moon, illness, unease in your head. Break the manacles of the mental shackles in your mind. Break the manacles of the mental shackles in your mind. This serves no one except the man who wants Babylon land to live rent-free. Who wants Babylon land to live rent-free in your mind? Internalizing the oppressor's language is the dictatorship of the unfree. Internalizing the oppressor's mind, the oppressor's language, is dictatorship of the unfree in an internal dialogue of slavery, mental slavery. Rise up, O wretched of the earth. Rise up, O wretched of the earth. Rise up, O wretched of the earth. Reclaim, rebirth, restore your mind. Reclaim, rebirth, restore your mind. Reclaim, rebirth, restore your mind. For all humankind, cry freedom, cry freedom, cry freedom. Set your colors in red, white, blue, and yellow. Set your colors in red, white, blue, and yellow. Synergize your solarized mind. Synergize your solarized mind with restoration of laughter. Lots of laughter, plenty laughter, and mirth on earth. A little at a time, dear friend. A little at a time. A little at a time. A little at a time you climb. A little at a time you climb. Higher into the fires. Higher into the fires of your own desire. Higher into the fires of your own desire. Higher into the fires of your own desire. With oxygen supply, dear friend, with oxygen supply up here at altitude, with oxygen supply up here at altitude, plenty enough to fly. Free your mind, free at last. Free your mind, free at last. Free your mind, free at last. So this is dedicated to people who are going through some really difficult times right now, all across this country. They're like 5, 6, 7. Let's see how many doomsday scenarios we're dealing with all at the same time here. So if you're feeling a little bit out of whack and out of balance, there's reasons. Babylon man is throwing every bit of chaos he can at you to get you marginalized, off balance, so he can take over and become a dictator and run as a reign of terror all over not only this country but the entire earth. So let's look at the 6, 5, 6, 7 doomsday scenarios. So we can look at one. The most important, contrary to what all the media is telling you, it's not global change, climate change. That's important, but the most important that we have to deal with is nuclear weapons. That's the number one doomsday scenario. Nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons is the number one doomsday scenario. And we have to move beyond nuclear weapons and nuclear everything. We have to have abolition of the entire nuclear age. It's time to move beyond the nuclear age and have nuclear abolition as the new abolition movement. Okay, nuclear weapons, all right. So let's look at North Korea. That's another doomsday scenario. And it is very dangerous right now because they're both sending off intercontinental ballistic missiles with the huff and puff and strut of threatening to blow the other's house down, like three little pigs. And one is coming from the east, one comes from the west. The little pig in the east says, I'm going to huff and puff and blow your house down. The little pig in the west comes over and says, oh no, I'm going to huff and puff and blow your house down with my ICBM. And we're really close. The atomic clock is close to midnight. I think it's like 3 minutes to midnight by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. The atomic clock is like at 3 minutes to midnight. And so North Korea is the second doomsday scenario. Third would be around Soviet Union with the saber rattling of NATO up at the door of the Soviet Union in Ukraine. And that's been playing on and off for like, the last 4 years or so. So the doomsday scenario with the Soviet Union, very real. We don't want to mess with the Soviet, the bear of Russia, the Russian big great bear, too much, too close to his home, because guess what? That bear is a grizzly, and grizzlies you do not want to mess with. Just talk to some people up at Glacier National Park. Grizzly bears are outright freaking dangerous. But you don't want to mess with a grizzly. And the Soviet bear is no different than a grizzly. And we're messing with huffing and puffing at his door through NATO, going right up to the border and threatening and tilting, saber rattling and all that stuff. So, okay. So we have nuclear weapons, North Korea, Soviet Union. Okay, let's look at climate change. Climate change is real and the science is real. And that is definitely, that's a doomsday scenario. That's absolutely a doomsday scenario. Some people say 2023 is it. I heard Dr. Doom, I won't even give him a name, just a total jerk of a scientist, and makes you question all scientists after listening to this jerk, saying, well, 2023 says there's no hope, it's all over, the best we can do is as we all fall over the cliff together. Don't invite scientists to speak of that doomsday. Scientists out there, don't give us that scenario. We've heard that. Give us something better than that or pipe up. You know, you're not helping your cause one bit by sending out these dudes. These are charlatans. And we don't need people talking about the end of the world with no hope. And the first thing out of this dude's mouth is, there's no hope. Well, if you hear somebody saying that, pull the plug on him. Get him off stage. Give him no oxygen to breathe. Okay. So climate change is another one. That's 4. Applications. The 6th extinction. That's another doomsday scenario, which is really playing out, which is the great extinction of animals and species on the planet. This is called the 6th extinction. You can check that book out. So that is the 6th extinction, which is somewhat related to climate change, but not totally related. But being, I'd say that both are human-induced, the 6th extinction and climate change, I think the jury's been in on that 30 years ago. Both of these are caused by human beings. So we have to literally change the way we think, dear friend. Change our minds. If we have to slow down, if we have to draw down power, if we have to draw down from the old power grid of King Kong, coal, oil, nuclear, and gas, we need to draw down, okay, all hydrocarbon, our fossil fuel, and our carbon footprint. That's called drawdown. Coal, oil, nuclear, and gas, okay? And then power down. We don't need to have all these screen devices on all the time with Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi towers and microwave towers and smartphone towers. Don't make us smart, it's making us dumber by the day. So it's time to power down. And if we can't get off this addiction, everybody in this culture seems to be addicted to these iPhones, smartphones, and every other electronic social media device. Facebook. How many people are on Facebook? I bet, like 600, 1 billion people are on Facebook. Go thanks to the Zuck, good old Facebook. Okay, get off that stuff. So power down. That means, okay, if you're going to be on these things, push the off button when you're not using them. That way, all of this electromagnetic pulses, frequencies are not radiating your body and your mind. You're not getting irradiated with unnecessary Wi-Fi radiation, cell phone radiation goes right to your head, brain. And think about these things, They're so easy, but the costs, we're not told. The costs are pretty heavy. Not just in terms of social, but in physical, biophysical. So power down. Hit the power button, push on the off button when they're not in use. So if you get a phone call, you don't necessarily have to pick it up right away. You can say, okay, I'll return that call in a half an hour when I power up. But there's two things that are positive here. We can power down, right? And we can draw down from coal, oil, nuclear, and gas, and come up with power by solar, wind, biomass, and geothermal. Solar, wind, biomass, and geothermal is the key. It's sustainable and it regenerates itself. It's self-sustaining and it regenerates. These others do not regenerate, especially nuclear. It's the worst. So power down, and then draw down, and then renewable energy, solar, wind, photovoltaics, and biomass and hydroelectric. Water power, if we need to. That'd be the last course. But solar and wind is coming to a place that's replacing, even with subsidies, it is replacing the cost per kilowatt hour of oil, nukes, and gas. So that's the way of the future, all right? So we have hope. So get this book called Drawdown by Paul Hawken and another book called Power Down. And you could help a lot. These are things we can do. We can actually take control and activate and be in the driver's wheel of how we want to live our lives simply by powering down and drawing down. These are things that are tools that are useful, that are in our hands that we can use and do and drive the wheel that we desire, the wheel of our own desire. So in effect, this whole fascist dictatorship coming out of D.C., it's not yet that, but every tendency is toward that, is designed to perpetuate the dinosaur of coal, oil, nuclear, and gas. And it's time for it to go back to the tar pit and thresh around there. We don't need to have it in our lives anymore, polluting, giving little kids under 8 who live in these chemical wasteland, oil wasteland, especially around oil refineries, so it gives little kids asthma, breathing. Little kids 8 years old can't breathe. And so look at Richmond, California, and about 5 cities out there. And then there's a study coming out about a place the size of the state of New Jersey. I think it's 8,000 square miles at the Gulf of Mexico, which is just a black zone, which is nothing more than all the effluent and nitrogen and carbon buildup from the upper Midwest of the pesticides floating out of there, just dead zones, 8, 10 of them down there, just messing up the biota everywhere in the Gulf of Mexico. So there's a term that we want to start using, and I would invite you to look up a book by E.O. Wilson called Biophilia, Biophilia. It's kind of a nice term. Biophilia means love of life. Biophilia, love of life. So let's have love of life and the restoration of the regeneration of this planet. According to the vision of Crazy Horse, he said in the 7th generation yet to come that would be a restoration of moving out of the dark times. And he's talking about some really dark times. So that 7 generations, that's 140 years when he said that. It was 1877. So this is 2017, so this is the beginning of the restoration of Crazy Horse's vision, where not only red people, but black people, white people will all come together as a brotherhood, as a united nations, much like Standing Rock did. And the spirit of Standing Rock is the beginning of the restoration of Crazy Horse's vision of the 7th generation, which is a planet of peace, and the last great war being the Afghanistan war in 2003. Call it the last great war. That's all part of Crazy Horse's vision. And he sees us coming together again in a united vision of United Nations, a united vision of all people to move beyond war and have a planet of peace and abundance and tilth and plenty, a harvest for all, with equality for all and justice for all. And that is for all people of the rainbow hoops of all the nations, red, yellow, black, and white. And I urge people to begin to look up Crazy Horse's vision, the vision of Crazy Horse for the restoration of the 7th generation yet to come, which is around the year 2017. And we begin to see the early resonance field of that awakening at Standing Rock. So this is the second part of the last piece that I shared here was basically called a little bit of power down. You bring the power down from the powers that be of Babylon. Shake the walls of Babylon. Burn the house down, as we said here. Burn the house down of the scaffolding of the old mental house. Burn it whole, burn it total and completely down. Wear no frown. Burn the whole house down. So that is the power down. And then this is the drawdown, where we move into a sustainable, renewable mind, regeneration. This is what we call drawdown. Come back into the great sky mind, dear friends. Come back into the great sky mind. Plug an Iditarod electrode into your great mind, dear friend. Plug any Iditarod electrode into your great mind, dear friend. Expand it to the messages it is sending you. Much like a cumulus cloud growing and flowing and billowing, expand into the messages it is sending you when you plug in an Iditarod electrode into your great mind. 1 for Silas, 2 for Jonas. Accept only analog messages. Accept only analog messages from the vacuum tubes built slow and solid. Glassworks from the rotary dial in the phone booth, Back to the Future. Accept only analog messages from vacuum tubes built slow and solid. Glassworks from the rotary dial in the phone booth, Back to the Future. Back to the Future in a 1937 Sylvania Silvertone. In a 1937 Sylvania Silvertone. Time out of mind. Time out of mind. Time out of mind. And the great sky carries ancestors' breath in a sudden downpour out of nowhere. Back to the Future. In a 1937 Sylvania Silvertone, time out of mind, great vacuum tube analog, stand-up radio, big wooden radio, time out of mind, and the great sky carries ancestors' breath in a sudden downpour out of nowhere on Lugnasad. Let's slow this down a little bit. And Back to the Future in a 1937 Silvertone stand-up big wooden radio. Time out of mind, dear friend. Time out of mind. And the great sky carries ancestors' breath in a sudden downpour out of nowhere. And in a sudden downpour out of nowhere, on Lugnasad, on Lammas, the holy day of the holy good way, of the holy good red road, a minor chord quaterning of the great seasonal wheel. On Lugnasad, a minor chord quaterning on the great seasonal wheel, August 2nd, this holy day, Sangreal, holy day, Sandier, holy day, Sandies. This drawdown of the mind at large, a solarized photovoltaic photon beaming in with the higher truth in the great sky mind. In this drawdown of mind at large, thrice Hermes Trismegistus, thrice Hermes Trismegistus, thrice Hermes Trismegistus. This drawdown of the mind at large, a marriage of heaven and earth, of the divine Pymander, the sacred and the profane, the Gans Andere, a drawdown of mind at large, a solarized photovoltaic photon beaming in with the higher truth in the great sky mind. This drawdown of mind at large is a solarized photovoltaic, a photon beaming in with a higher truth in the great sky mind, in the telluric overcurrents of the etheric overcurrents and the telluric desolation angels and the telluric subterraneans, and the etheric overcurrents on the gondolas, with the photon beaming in with the higher truth in the great sky mind. The shroud finds an opening in the cloud of unknowing. Dear friend, we are moving toward a photon beam eclipse. And it will be a solarized event, a photovoltaic event. Reverse negative developing. a reverse solarization process of a negative ions. A reverse solarization process of negative ions. A solarized photovoltaic photon beaming. So this photon beam is coming in, and it'll be here August 21st. And this photon beaming in with a higher truth in the great sky mind is similar to a de-evolution, but beyond de-evolution. It will be become an apotheosis, which is 222, which is the lowest part. It's called the nadir, or the lowest part. So we have involution. Will be an involution event, part of an apocalyptic outpicturing, but it would be an involution event wherein in the great sky mind the shroud finds an opening in the cloud of unknowing. And this cloud of unknowing will be that 2 hours or so when the photon beam is totally eclipsing the sun. Total photon beam, totally in totality, would be 2 hours and some odd minutes. Or is it 2 minutes? I don't know. I think it's 2 minutes, but the entire process will be at least 2 hours, possibly 4 hours. And this cloud of unknowing will thus revealing a great story, thus revealing, dear friend, involution, which is apotheosis, and one could also call it a kenosis event, a great emptying out. In this outpicturing, even in this ion photon beam belt, the outpicturing will be a kenosis event as well, which is a great emptying out. A great emptying out, which would be pouring of the great pitcher of the Aquarius, the pitcher of water, the outpouring, an outpicturing, an outpouring. So like the kenosis is an emptying out. And apotheosis is equally similar. So this would be a kenosis, and an apotheosis. Aho. For those who have ears to hear, monads, divyads, dryads, and dyadic dialogue, one can hear. And the monads in the kenosis event. A kenosis event. So this would be an emptying out. So this is a natural event, so it'll be an emptying out, which the outpicturing may not be seen for maybe a year, maybe 4 years, maybe 10 years, the total effect. Right? The effect, flux. The flux effect, that may be as much as 20 years in a total cycle of things. So we're dealing with solar cycles here. And the tune of the Mayan calendar is a 20-year tune, the Bach tune. So this is a return to Hunab-Ku, which is the center of the galaxy, of the Milky Way galaxy, of the Alcyone, star Alcyone. So this is a return to Hunab-Ku through the Kuksan Sum of this Axio Mundi called this solar eclipse. Through, now listen, this is really important, through kenosis, which is an emptying out, as well as apotheosis. So we have a lot to center in here. And thus revealing the drawdown of the mind at large to the solarized photovoltaic, a photon beaming in with the higher truth in the great sky mind. The shroud finds the opening in the cloud of unknowing. And in this process, we follow the vision of the seventh generation of Crazy Horse that says something about 2017 and the restoration of returning out of the dark time, of the terrible dark time of the 2 world wars and the massacre and genocide of Native American peoples. And now is a return of the harmony ways of the great peace, under the tree of life, under the sacred tree of life. So this is part of the great tree of life, of the most great peace, where we put our hatchets, we bury our hatchets. The hatchet burying ceremony, time to bury the hatchets, so that the 7th generation dream can beam in on the solarized beam. And that is beginning of the harmony ways with that Standing Rock. And the sun stands still for 3 days. And these are the sacred fires that emanate out from Standing Rock, the new United Nations. So the warriors now have been replaced by protectors and guardians. These are more spiritualized events. So the warriors are still there, but now they become sacred protectors, guardians, right? Nonviolence is the way. And so then the drawdown of the mind at large, a solarized photovoltaic photon is beaming in with the higher truth in the great sky mind. And the shroud finds an opening in the cloud of unknowing, revealing the great story of great work and great time. Dear friend, we're all blessed to be living at this time. Each one of us is a gift to the great story and the great work and great time. All of these are part of the great mystery. And each one of us is part of the gift of the great story, each one of us, and great work and great time. As Jack has awakened from his slumber, dear friend, Jack has awakened from his slumber and climbed into his liminal mind. His liminal mind, not libido and not limbic, his liminal mind. Jack has climbed into his liminal mind, stalking the great beam sky pole, stalking the great beam sky lodge pole, and discovering his own axial mundi within. He's discovering his own axial mundi within. There is a rupture of plane. There is a rupture of plane as he rides the flame of the lion's mane. As he rides the flame of the lion's mane of Leo across the great midday sky, across Lammas and Lugnasad, of the great midway station, of the midsummer night's dream, as he rides the flame of the lion's mane, O Helios steed, across the great midday sky. Seize all of this, dear friend. Soak it all in. This is all to be composted and soaked in for the future generations yet to come. And this is a rupture of plane. As he rides the flame of the lion's mane across the great midday sky, for those with ears to hear, let one hear. For those with ears to hear, let one hear. Celebrating the minor arcana of this great cross-stitching of the crown of creation, the lattice work of the crystalline earth, celebrating the minor arcana, a rhapsodichord of Lugnasad, of Lammas, upon a midsummer's day, and wash your spirit in that unfolding rain that we've just had on this Odin's day, washing our spirits clean. So this is part of the unfolding of Lammas and an esoteric, you could call it El Chiringa, but it's archetypal symbolic look, maybe through a Jungian psychology, a Jungian lens of a lensless reality, of this solar eclipse coming up, as well as Lammas August 2nd, which is the midway point between summer solstice and autumn equinox. So this is actually in all faiths and all religions, it's a holy day. So I invite you, dear friends, to take that time to re-examine and re-look and step back and breathe and reflect. And so we will got that unpacking through covering the dots, the I's, and crossing the T's with the eidetic and the details of a lot that was plugged into this echo-poetic piece. We'll just now, so that's mostly in the head, a cerebral event, activity. So now we're going to move right into the heart. And so we'll do a quick Billy here, which is basically, we've gone through an explanation, an elucidation. We've elucidated all the details here. So now we're going to do a quick Billy and go from the cerebral right into the intuitive, from the head right into the heart. Okay, come back into the great sky mind. Plug an Iditarod electrode into your great mind, dear friend. Expand into the messages it is sending you. One for Silas, one for Jonas. Accept only analog messages from vacuum tubes built slow and solid. Glass works from the rotary dial in the phone booth Back to the Future. In a 1937 Sylvania Silvertone stand upright big wooden radio. Time out of mind. And the great sky carries the ancestors' breath in a sudden downpour out of nowhere on Lugnasad Lamas. Minor chord a quaterning of the great seasonal wheel, August 2nd. Drawdown of the mind at large, a solarized photovoltaic photon beaming in with the higher truth. In the great sky mind, dear friend, shroud finds an opening. It's dedicated to Jerry Garcia as well. The great dark star, the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia, they're dedicated to the vibrations. Good vibrations, brother. Solarized photovoltaic photon beaming in with the higher truth. In the great sky mind, in silver tones, the shroud finds an opening in the cloud of unknowing, revealing the great story and great work and great time. As Jack has awakened from his slumber and climbed into the liminal mind, stalking the great bean sky lodge pole, discovering his own axial mundi within, there is rupture of plain as he rides the flame of the lion's mane across the great midday sky. For those with ears to hear, dear friend, let one hear. For those with ears to hear, let one hear. Celebrating the minor arcana, rhapsody of Lugnasad and Lammas upon a midsummer's day. Wash your spirit in that, dear friend. Wash your spirit in that. Washte, Pilamia, ho. Wash your spirit in that. And thus we have come from exercising our demons in this golden eternity of this green fires of ire, of the sacred time together, in this golden eternity of now. And we have exercised our demons and thus setting Babylon out of here, set the captives free, and out of our mind, restoring our mind by doing the necessary work to exercise these demons, and then we are moving into a higher mind of coming back into the great sky mind of our own time. And this is work that is not easy. It's difficult work, but thanks for hanging in there with me, because through this effort we all heal one another and we become good to go, and our spirits are washed clean. So with that, I wish you a very happy midsummer night's dream, and peace to you and yours out there. Thank you. Peace.